You know that new year, new me feeling? It's pretty powerful, right? But what if instead of just piling on new habits, we actually focused on what we should quit? That's what we're going to dig into today. We're talking about a really cool idea: how to spot and then break those invisible rules that might just be holding you back. Yeah, it all kicks off with that feeling. It's this collective energy, this idea of a totally clean slate. It's not just about flipping the calendar, it's about wanting to reset our entire way of thinking. And that's exactly what we're focusing on. This isn't just about, changing your daily routine. It's way deeper. It's about taking a hard look at what you actually believe. Think of it like looking at the automatic code, the programming that's just running in the background of your life without you even noticing. Because let's be real, some of those so-called normal beliefs, well, they might not be doing us any favors. So the real question is, what are you ready to quit? What are you willing to let go of to make room for something that's actually, better? All right, so where do we even begin? Well, we start with the problem of normal itself. And you're not going to believe where the big idea for all this came from: a simple, unmowed lawn. So, the story goes it all kicked off with a really simple conversation. The author's dad was visiting and was kind of bothered that her yard wasn't mowed. Why? Well, because it just wasn't normal, right? And that one little comment ended up sparking this huge aha moment about all these invisible rules we're all following without even thinking about it. And this quote, this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. Following norms is how we got here. I mean, think about that. When we just accept things because, well, that's just how it's done, and we never stop to ask why, that's how we get stuck. So this is really a call to action, to start questioning all the stuff we just take for granted. Okay, so let's get specific. What's one of the biggest areas in our lives that's totally run by these unwritten rules? I'll tell you, it's our attention. It is without a doubt our most valuable resource, and yet we've somehow made it normal to just give it away to literally anyone who asks for it. I mean, just think about it for a second. We've totally normalized getting marketing texts from companies like they're our best friends. We scroll and scroll and scroll through bad news and call it relaxing. And what about that constant need to fill every single silent moment with a podcast or music? That's a huge modern norm. It's like we've been trained to be afraid of the quiet. So, this chart isn't from some scientific study, but it illustrates a really powerful point. Look at it. After you carve out time for work and family and chores and all that media noise, what's left for actual, true silence? Almost nothing. A tiny little sliver. And the crazy part is, that's often where the magic happens, where our best ideas come from, where we find real clarity. So the big shift here is moving from being passive to being active. It's about making a choice. Instead of just letting your focus get pulled in a million different directions by anyone who wants a piece of it, you decide to see your attention as this precious thing, a resource that you actively protect and point towards what actually matters to you. Okay, so that's the battle for our attention, which is mostly an external thing. But what about the norms that are inside us? The ones that shape how we feel about ourselves, our self-worth. We've all been taught in one way or another to tie our value to these outside standards that, honestly, we have very little control over. Just think about the messages we're bombarded with every single day. The idea that aging is this terrible thing we have to fight tooth and nail, that our value as a person is directly tied to how we look, that we should all be striving to fit into some narrow, specific body type. These aren't just random ideas. They are powerful, deeply ingrained norms. And man, can they be damaging. And this is where making that intentional shift is so, so powerful. It's about consciously deciding to unhook your sense of value from the number on a scale or the date on a calendar. Instead, you choose to ground it in something real, in who you are as a person, in your ideas, in what you have to say and contribute to the world. All right, so we've talked attention, we've talked self-worth. These norms run deep, right? But now we're going to get to maybe the most radical, most countercultural norm of all to question: our relationship with our time, and the absolutely critical, non-negotiable value of rest. Let me ask you this, because it's a really powerful question. If your calendar is empty, does that mean you're free? The default answer, the normal answer, is of course, right? We see an empty slot on the calendar and think it's an open invitation, that we're somehow obligated to say yes to whatever comes along. But is that actually true? And boom, that's the key insight right there. Just because there's nothing scheduled doesn't mean we're free. Maybe you're mentally gearing up for a huge project next week, or maybe you're just completely emotionally drained. Unscheduled time is not the same thing as available time. It's our recharge time. It's the time we need to just be. This leads us to the idea of intentional rest. It's this active choice. It's recognizing that protecting your own energy is a real commitment, just as important as any meeting. It's all about reframing rest. It's not laziness. It's not a failure of productivity. It is an absolutely essential practice for staying healthy, for being creative, and for actually showing up in your own life. So, okay, we've walked through attention, self-worth, and rest. Now the real power here, the whole point of this, is turning this lens around and pointing it back at your own life. It's about you taking these ideas and seeing how they fit for you. And here's a super simple 4-step framework you can use to do just that. Step 1, just identify one of those normal habits in your life. Maybe it's how you automatically apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. Step 2, ask yourself, why? Why do I do this? Step 3, really decide if it's actually serving you. And finally, step 4, choose a new, intentional way to act instead. And that's where we're going to leave it today. It's a question I really want you to carry with you. What is just one normal thing in your life that's worth questioning? Because digging into that one thing, that could be the start of a really amazing, positive change. Thanks for tuning in.